Well, thank you for staying tuned. It is still the conversation on Lagos television. On this side, challenges of rural-urban migration on Lagos is what we'll be discussing. Lagos, the economic hub of Nigeria, continues to attract people from rural areas seeking better opportunities. But with this rapid influx come many challenges, from housing to transportation, unemployment, pressure on infrastructure and social services. Our guest is joining us via Zoom to discuss this issue, and we have with us here Charles Olojede. He is a public affairs analyst. You're welcome, Charles. Hello, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you, but I can't see you, but I can hear you. All right, I can see you now. So we're discussing challenges of rural-urban migration in Lagos. And my first question would be, with over 22 million people residing in Lagos, why is Lagos a major destination? And how has this migration contributed to the rapid population growth in Lagos?
Well, Lagos is naturally disposed to being, I don't want to call it a victim, but to be a hub, to be an attraction for immigration, for migration, rural urban migration, for several reasons. Number one, Lagos was even in the old days, before Nigeria existed as a single entity, Lagos was a coastal town. When you are a coastal town, you automatically become a trade hub, and you're an attraction for trade automatically. So Lagos has started to be in that light right from the 15th, 16th century, when the Portuguese used to come to the Lagos port and have all sort of trade interaction. Over the years, by the time in the early 19th century and the rest of it, when the Europeans were already here, Lagos State also now became the hub of commerce. So the Europeans, they needed to take items, primary production out of Nigeria. It could be minerals, it could be agricultural products, and all of that. And when you want to do that, you look at a place like Lagos, still based on the port, and Lagos became that hub for movement of all those production that needed to be shipped abroad from Nigeria after Nigeria has existed. And Lagos automatically became the hub of commerce for Nigeria. So when you talk about trading, when you talk about even manufacturing, it became very significant. Another level now was when government was established, and Lagos State became the seat of the federal government of Nigeria. As the seat of government, it automatically also drew another set of people. It became a center of attraction. I remember seeing a statistic some years ago that said about 60% of electricity consumed in Nigeria were being consumed in Lagos as at that time. As at today, statistics says if Lagos were to be a country, it would be the 5th largest GDP in Africa. So economically, Lagos is huge, and that has formed the primary basis for attracting immigrants or attracting migration. Let me call them immigrant. Migration from all parts of the country into Lagos to come and be part of that economic buzz that is going on in Lagos State.
Yeah, I really like that you took us back history lane. But now let's look at the challenges that the state is facing due to the influx of people. Let's start with environmental challenges. What kind of pressure has this increased migration placed on the environment when we have issues of waste management and pollution and so on?
It's a huge burden on Lagos. And I think over the years, that might have been part of what led some proponent to seek special status for Lagos. In the real sense, it deserves some sort of special status. You see, when the handle of a flusher for a toilet flusher, there are a number of turns that are built into it. After you have exceeded that number of turns, most likely it will break down. That describes the nature of pressure that infrastructure will face in a place like Lagos. So because there are more vehicles, the roads will get bad more easily, will get bad faster. Because there are heavier articulated vehicles moving things from the port, it also puts pressure on the roads. There will be pressure on the water. There is pressure on any infrastructure you can think about in Lagos State, but because of population density. Lagos is only about 3,750 thereabout square kilometer of land, harboring or housing over 20 million people. The population of Lagos is more than 4 West African countries put together. So when you have that kind of a population on 3,700 square kilometers of land, you have an immense issue of pressure on infrastructure to deal with, pressure of waste management to deal with, which is what we meant. The volume of waste that is generated per hour in Lagos is probably equal to the rest of Nigeria put together.
All right, let's also look at housing and living conditions, because we cannot have this conversation and not talk about it. Just last week, the Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, alongside his team, carried out a clearance operation around the Ojaoba underbridge at Adeniji Adile, where you had people rearing cattle under the bridge. And there was also a time at Dolphin Estate where the landlord under the bridge was even, collecting rent. And so if you look at all these things, you have illegal shanties here and there. Can we link the rise in the informal settlement shanties to the migration trend?
Of course it is. Even as a country, we suffer the major loss when Akombo Bridge got gutted some years ago. Why did that bridge got burnt? It got burnt because there were activities going on under the bridge. Some stories said, okay, there was a store that had some explosive material, and that exploded and gutted the bridge. For the next 2 years after that fire, we didn't get a good use of that bridge, or maybe no use at all. And that is an example of how the housing problem, in Lagos State has become an issue, that people have to live literally everywhere under the bridges, wherever they can find a place they live. When you go to some streets, you see people pulling out shops, attempting to make shops out of the fence of buildings. And that is also something that shows pressure. But you see, if we have this kind of population vis-a-vis the available land and other resources, things like that are bound to happen. So we are going to have to be more proactive and more engaging about how we approach this matter, so that we can tame it in a more structured way. We can be proactive about it, and we can tame the problem in a more structured way. As it is today, I remember some years ago when one of our former governors in Lagos State tried to say, okay, if you are in Lagos, you don't have a job, you don't have a place to live, can we take you back to where you came from? It became a major problem in this country, because the law allows Nigerians to live everywhere they may choose to live, even when they are a nuisance in the place they have chosen to live. There is no provision that says, okay, unless they have committed a crime. So we're going to have to be more structured in how we approach issues of planning, issues of migration, to ensure that Lagos State does not become, filled with shanties all over. Because the people that are being moved from one place, what do they normally do? They move to another place. Before government will come to that one, maybe it will be another 2 or 3 years. By that time, they will find another place again and also move to. Is that how it will continue? Certainly not.
How about in terms of security and social integration? Has this migration also impacted?
It's very seriously. I remember when some shanties were had to be taken off at the Ikorodu exit some years ago. It was based on serious security challenges that was, that was established by virtue of those shanties that were in those places. And who are the people in those shanties that we're talking about? A lot of them are people migrated from other parts of Nigeria into that place. My office used to be somewhere at the junction of Adeola Odeku and Ake Adeshola on Victoria Island. And every morning, before even I resume at work, you see some young people, you have some young children, they've resumed there. And they will be begging from morning till night. These are people, children, who should be at school. So the question you want to ask yourself is, when a teenager wakes up at 7:30 and begs from 7:30 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. at night, he's not going to school, he's not learning any skill, what is he going to become? You know, and that junction that I mentioned, it wasn't the only junction that had that kind of a problem. There are several parts of Lagos that had that kind of problem. On one occasion, I did interview some of them. I found out that some of them came all the way from Kano, some from Maiduguri, running away from insecurity in another part of the country, and they found themselves in Lagos here. So if they have found themselves there and they don't have anything to do and they're just begging on the street, they're not learning skills, they're not going to school, they will also end up most likely becoming criminals.
And become a problem to society.
So there are security challenges with rural-urban migration.
And let's look at the pressure it also puts on our infrastructure in terms of transportation. Traffic is one thing that we have here in Lagos. But how would you rate the efforts of the government with the current infrastructure projects, keeping pace with the growing populace?
I think Lagos State is trying a whole lot. I might say, in spite of the fact that there is a whole lot that still has to be done, it would be fair to say that they are well ahead of their peers as far as Nigeria is concerned. The train initiative is very important. Commuter train, which Lagos State is doing, and even the one by federal government, which was meant to go into the ports. You see, even 50, 60 years ago, when the colonial master built a rail into the Nigerian port, he knew what he was doing. Because the rail will facilitate movement of goods from the port to the hinterland, from the hinterland back to the port. And that will reduce the pressure on the roads. As it is for many years now, that rail has not exactly been functional. And what that has led to is a situation in which we're trucking everything out from the port, including things that are going to Sokoto, to Kano, to the extreme parts of the country. All of them are being trucked from the port to their destination. All these things exert a lot of pressure on infrastructure in Lagos State. But by virtue of the passenger train, it did relieve people as far as the commuters is concerned. And I know there are several other plans along that line. That was just a little bit of the plan. There are those commuter trains, there are quite a number of them, the Agbado one, even the one that is currently at mile 2, the red line, blue line, yellow line, all the lines that there may be. The one that is currently operational is even meant to go all the way to Kokomaiko. But as it is today, it is still at mile 2. So all those are efforts to make life better for Lagosians, but there's a lot to be done. We need some of those red, green, blue lines to start operating. That is the reality.
Well, the red line and the blue line are in operation. as we speak. Now let's look at employment and the economy. What effect does migration have on the job market in Lagos?
Of course, it brings more competition to the market, and it is, you know, do the employers like that? I think so. I think employers like being able to make choices. So if you have a bigger pool, then you're probably better able to make your choice. On the flip side of that is that if there are too many people seeking for a job, does it mean that employers could, you know, since there are so many people competing, I can undercut what I should pay for that particular service? That is also on the flip side of it. What is not in doubt, however, is that because Lagos State has continued to remain that economic hub, and almost on a daily basis, businesses are being birthed, you know, and new businesses are coming up, businesses are being reformed. It will remain a hub of opportunities and will continue to attract people, workforce from all across the country, and I dare say even outside of the country. I still remember some years ago when we suddenly found a Mark Zuckerberg at Sabo in Yaba, Lagos. Yeah. He didn't go to Abuja. He didn't even see the governor before he came to the market to come and, you know, start going into cyber cafes and all that stuff. There was something he was seeing all the way in America where he was sitting that made him hop on an aircraft and come down to come and see what is going on at Sabo in Nigeria. So Lagos has that, you know, capacity to continue to create economic activities, and therefore will continue to attract employees, people who are job seekers for all cadres of job that you can imagine.
Okay, let's look at the informal sector now, because you have some of these people moving in, mostly taking up the informal sector jobs. One, when we look at it in terms of security, and then also how can this be harnessed to drive economic development?
Lagos State had an initiative some years ago to the Lastra initiative. Because you see, knowing the number of people you are planning for is at the very heart of planning in itself. I don't know what state is that project now. Has it been abandoned? Because I got registered, but I'm not so sure if that program still has the same. It's still being pursued with the same zeal and enthusiasm with which it's still on. Yeah. It's good to know that. Are the people that are coming into Lagos, is the database of Lastra still being updated as it's supposed to be? All those things are important to ensure that we know the number of people that were in Lagos that are joining the ones that were there and the current situation where they live. What this does is that it helps Lagos State to better plan for all these people, whether the people that have been there before or the ones that are joining them. I was checking out a report about a city in China. And part of the planning that city was doing is actually trying to determine what will be the population of this city in 25 years. How many schools will they need in 25 years? How many hospitals are going to be required? You know, they were looking at all the infrastructure that will be needed to serve the projected people. But the good part is that they already know how many people were currently living in that place. So we need to find a way to be able to also continually update the Lastra record. Maybe it will require a new campaign to bring it more to the awareness of people of the need to register. If we need to incentivize it, let's incentivize it so that we know how many people we are planning for, and that will help a great deal with whatever planning Lagos State intends to embark upon for the people.
Still a follow-up to that. Do you think that it is something that is doable or possible, looking at interstate collaboration now in managing migration and urban development, especially for a state like Lagos?
Extremely important. We must be able to engage. You see, one of the other problems with Lagos is the constraint of land, which I mentioned earlier. Lagos State has only 3,700 and something square kilometers of land. Now, it's difficult, although it has been trying to expand into the waters, but we all know that it is difficult to expand into the waters. It's a difficult project. So being able to engage with neighboring states for the possibility of, having some sort of joint planning regarding rural-urban migration, and how part of the, if you like call it fallout now, part of that population could still feel good being migrated to a neighboring state instead of in Lagos. It's like looking at how you said the city of London and all those other places that are around but outside of London, and how population moves to all those other neighboring places. Without that, let's begin to picture what Lagos State might look like in by say 2050, if migration continued unabated the way it has continued, that people leave Maiduguri all the way by virtue of certain dislocations around insecurity and come and settle in Lagos, even when in Lagos they don't have any place to sleep or anything to do. What will it look like by 2050? So it's possible. Your question was, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. We just have to be, more methodical about it.
All right. You have, we have spoken about the challenges rural-urban migration, the challenges that the state faces. But again, what also are the roles of the local government? We have talked about what the state government is doing, because when these people come, they reside in a locality under a local government. What are your expectations from the local government?
We need a more vibrant local government. This is not a Lagos State problem, actually. It's a Nigerian problem. Some years ago, I went to attend an outreach with my son, my 12-year-old son. And when we got to that part, it was somewhere inside Oworo. I observed that the boy was just quiet all through. But when the program was over, he asked me two questions. He said, number one, he said, is this place also part of Lagos? Of course, that was easy to answer. I said, yes, it is part of Lagos. The second question was that, is the governor aware that they are here? And then I thought a little bit about that. The governor's eyes cannot be everywhere. The efficacy of planning requires that the local government functions and function properly. Because the governor cannot be everywhere. He cannot manage all the streets. He cannot know all the problems that are going on in every nook and cranny. And that is why government is further broken down into this local government. In fact, in the case of Lagos State, we also have local government development
council development
area. Exactly. So the purpose of this further breakdown of governance, of leadership, is to ensure that there is a government that is close to the people. It is when you have government that is close to the people and is active and functional and robust, that is when we begin to make the real impact in the lives of people. There's a popular advert that has been on the air where someone was talking about Lagos Island being the only local government in Nigeria that has approached the capital market for money before. And when did this happen? That event that they were referring to was probably 30, 40 years ago. So in those years, we have very strong local government leadership. And local government was doing a whole lot of things. You will remember all those caterpillars and all those things that were used to be in the premises of those local government. They are the ones that were taking care of all the local roads within their neighborhood. So they're not waiting for a state contract before their neighborhood could be fixed. Once they see all those photos, they roll out the caterpillar and they fix them. So we need a more robust and more functional local government. It will help a great deal to bring dividends of democracy to the people, because the eye of the governor cannot be everywhere.
Well, thank you so much, Charles Olojede, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for your time and extensively breaking down the challenges of rural-urban migration in Lagos. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, the conversation continues after this. Stay with us.